Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 17.1.2 released the other day, and iOS 17.2 Beta 4 released a few days ago. There's more new features to talk about since the iOS 17.2 Beta 4 is out. What's new video? We'll also talk about the overall experience of both of them, based off my experience and your experience on the YouTube community poll. At the time of this video, there's 16,000 votes and 176 comments. I've gone through all of the comments to determine what the experience is like. But first, let's talk about a few Apple News updates, and then we'll take a look at some new features. Now, the first thing is actually right on YouTube. Apple actually allowed access to CNBC inside its chip lab. If you search for CNBC Apple Lab, you can see it there, and it's the first video that shows up. And this particular video gives an inside look that's something that most people don't ever get to see. So be sure to check it out. It's about 17 minutes long. If you're interested in that, they talk about their future roadmap a little bit, but don't give away too much. So they've been working on modems and more. So hopefully we'll see that in the future where we get better connectivity and more. Now, I'm fairly active on X or Twitter, but I also post on other things such as Threads as well. Many of you follow me on either both or one or the other, and apparently Threads is coming to the EU in December or this month fairly soon. I'd love to hear from you whether or not you want to use Threads or Twitter or even Mastodon or something else, or if I should just post on all of them. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Now, as far as iOS 17.2, it has a considerable amount of features. In fact, I've counted so far about 15 with the Journal app, some changes that we've seen to music, and much more. In fact, this past week with Beta 4, many were quite excited that under Sound and Haptics, we now have the option to change our default alerts from the tritone sound or whatever we want to droplet or anything else. So that's something that's great that they finally updated and allowed. I know many people were complaining about the default ringtone they had before. So let me know what your favorite ringtone and default alerts are as well. With the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, we have the option to record 4K 60 in ProRes, but only to an external device. If that external device isn't fast enough, previous versions would actually warn us that the device wasn't fast enough. Samsung T5s are fast enough, so they always work, but if you have a cable that's too slow this time, it will actually give us a message about that as well. So if we plug this in and maybe the cable isn't fast enough to support that ProRes 4K 60 video, it'll actually let us know. This one is fast enough, but sometimes if it's not, it will now warn us about the cable and the drive. So it will at least let us know why we can't record. So that's pretty great. There's also code that's been found in iOS 17.2 that now confirms Apple is planning to get rid of being able to purchase TV shows and movies in the iTunes app. Apple seems to be phasing that out in favor of the TV app, and I think that's a good move. Having one place for everything seems to make a lot of sense, where we just go into the TV app, we can buy our movies there, similar to what we have on the Apple TV. That's pretty much what you do anyway. If you buy everything, you end up going back to this app. So getting rid of iTunes altogether makes a lot of sense. They've pretty much gotten rid of it on Mac as well. You'll be able to find any of your purchases here, though, within your library, so that makes a lot of sense. Now, also, there were some new updates for some people where they went into their photos this time around and they saw their year in review pop up. So within my memories under For You, I haven't seen that pop up, but if I do in the future, I'll be sure to share it here as well. Some people are seeing a new splash screen this week, the first time they go into the App Store. So if you go into the App Store, you may see this splash screen where it says automatic downloads for in-app content. Some apps require in-app content to be downloaded before you can use them. Apps can now run automatically in the background to download this content before you first launch them. You can change this in settings. Now, this just showed up automatically for many people, and it's also available on iOS 17.1.2, it seems. So if you go to your settings, go to App Store, you'll see in-app content, and you'll see it here. You can just turn on some options here if you want them: app downloads, app updates, and in-app content. So if you want to enable that, that may be very helpful for you. Also, there's some updates with Memoji. On the left, I have iOS 17.1.2, and on the right is 17.2 Beta 4. You'll see we have a new option for body, where we can adjust things such as waist, chest, shoulders, and arms. This is probably more for the Apple Vision Pro, where it shows more of your body, maybe in a meeting or something like that, but now we have the option to adjust this however we want, where it wasn't there before. Also, if you go into music, and if with Beta 3 you created a collaborative playlist, I showed this before where you can't change it or add a new person or create a new collaborative playlist with Beta 4, but if you've already created one, there's no way to edit it. So this probably will return with the RC or iOS 17.2 release candidate, probably next week or so, but at this point we can't do anything about that. Now, Apple TV with tvOS 17.2 Beta 4 actually had a little bit of an update this week as well. Apple's changing some things around, and someone on X actually posted this. Sigmund Judge posted where now if you press the Siri button, it actually behaves differently and brings up the search text. So that's something that's been updated. So if I should cover tvOS 17.2 when it comes out, let me know in the comments below. Now, as far as other releases this week, well, we did have Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, iMovie, Compressor, and Motion all got major updates. That's something Apple actually announced in November 6th that Apple would be bringing to the Mac. So now it's on the Mac and iPad with new editing updates and more, and it also should be faster on Apple Silicon Macs. It is a little bit faster in my experience, but not anything that's very noticeable unless you have very long content. Now, as far as when to expect iOS 17.2 RC, probably this will be the last beta with Beta 4. I would expect the RC as soon as probably at this point Tuesday or so. So around the 5th or 6th, we could see the RC or release candidate with a final release releasing to the public probably around the 11th. Last year it was on the 13th, so iOS 17.2 public release will probably be in a couple weeks at this point. So that's what I would expect there. As far as the next version, iOS 17.3 Beta 1, I would expect probably the same week, with nothing more after that since we'll have the Christmas or holiday break, probably until the 2nd or 3rd week of January, like last year as well. So we're almost on the home stretch here. We're almost at the point where we won't have a couple betas for a while. Now, as far as iOS 17.1.2 and the issues that remain, well, I talked about in the What's New video where the Wi-Fi bug is still there. Not charging in some GM vehicles, Lincoln and others is still there. Also, different issues with the background fading. So if you're in notifications and you swipe up, sometimes the background will sort of dim or go not as vibrant. That's true on iOS 17.2 as well. There's also some performance issues where some people say that it's a little sluggish on older devices. I haven't seen that, but usually after it processes for a day, that speeds back up. Since it's only been out a couple of days at this point, I would say give that a few days, maybe a little bit more to finish processing. There's also an accessibility issue with assistive access. Someone pointed this out the other day to me, and if you're in accessibility and you have assistive access enabled, assistive access shows you sort of a larger display with different apps and more, where you can switch between rows and a grid option. If you have contacts enabled and you go into a contact and tap on a phone call or a phone number to call someone, it won't work. It doesn't recognize the touch or anything else. You can press and hold, keep tapping on it, nothing happens. So I've reported this in the feedback app. Hopefully they fix this very soon. Also, the notification sounds are still an issue in both versions, where sometimes the notifications come through, but they don't really do anything. And the notification bug is still there. So when you swipe down and back up, it just sort of jumps in. That's true on both versions of iOS. So iOS 17.1.2 didn't really fix any bugs, but 17.2 should fix quite a few. So if we bring this one down, you'll see it jumps in again on 17.2 Beta 4. Again, this still has the Wi-Fi issue, the wallpaper dimming issue, and a storage issue that some people are seeing on both versions as well, where the iCloud information doesn't match up. So if you go into your storage, go to General, iPhone Storage, give it just a moment here. Oftentimes people's iCloud data is not matching properly. So that's something people are seeing for some reason where it's just not correct. So if it's taking up a lot of space, it seems to be a little bit off. And also my iOS 17.2 version is taking up 11.45 gigabytes. That's not much of an issue. My system data goes up and down, but it shouldn't be anything that's using data where it's too much that you can't install apps if it's using storage that way or system data. I've seen this issue on Macs as well with the iCloud data not being accurate. Now, as far as camera improvements, I haven't noticed anything really here at all, but here's a couple different photos since many of you asked me to continue posting that, but I really don't notice any camera differences, camera improvements. I'm pretty happy with the camera on the 15 Pro Max though at this point. As far as the release notes, well, those were released quite a while after I actually did the What's New video. If we go into the feedback app, in the release notes, they've fixed quite a few issues, such as AirDrop not working properly on iOS 17 or 17.1 devices. Apple Music, they've fixed issues with the favorite song playlist, might take a while to appear. And they've also fixed issues with, well, if we keep scrolling down here, they've fixed issues when verifying another user. Contact verification codes wouldn't show properly with that new contact key verification, and much more. So there's still a known issue here where it says the learn more links do not link to the knowledge base articles during a beta. That's probably just because it's a beta. And then again, more resolved issues. So lots of things that they've fixed. Hopefully it gets much better before the final release and resolves all of the issues we've been having with the wallpaper dimming, Wi-Fi, and more. Wi-Fi, I would say, would be one of the most important ones, though. Overall connectivity has been pretty good for me. No issues there, honestly. It's been much better this time around, even though we didn't have a modem update. And as far as performance, I've had zero slowdowns with this update. No issues whatsoever, whether that's just simple scrolling, maybe going into an app, opening that up, going in and out of different apps, going through TikTok, maybe X, Instagram, Discord, Telegram. I use all of those regularly, and I've had no issues with those. So they're all seemingly working, except for on CarPlay. I did have Apple Music freeze up today where I had to actually close it out and then go back in, and it worked fine. After that, it wasn't an issue, but it was only during CarPlay. So other than that, I've had no issues whatsoever. As far as the overall heat of the device, I've noticed it not really warming up at all. In fact, right now is probably the warmest it's felt since I've had it on with the screen brightness up a little bit since filming this video. Let's take a look with the thermal camera. As you can see, at the hottest point of the 15 Pro Max, I was able to find about 32 degrees Celsius. On the 15 Pro Max running the public version of 17.1.2, we're at about 29.5 degrees Celsius. On Beta 4, we have about 89.5 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and then on 17.1.2 about 85.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So overall pretty good, staying fairly cool, just using it regularly. If you're playing games, of course, it's going to be a little bit warmer and heat up a little bit. As far as benchmarks, I did mention that I would run that again, and on 17.1.2, that's on the left, Beta 4 is on the right. We have pretty good results, 2,986 for single core, 7,517 for multi-core. That's on the current public version. I did have to run it a couple times as I had pretty low results earlier on. You can see that here, but on Beta 4, I had 2,878 and 7,284. Again, fairly low. If I ran that again, it'd probably bump up a little bit, but overall pretty good. This will vary every time you run it, but it's staying nice and cool. Even after running this, it was fairly cool to the touch. As far as battery life, well, this is going to vary quite a bit. On the beta that I've been running, let's go back here. We'll go to General and About. You'll see I have 58 cycles as far as the cycle count goes. Unfortunately, they still haven't added that to older devices for some reason. And if we go to battery health and charging, I'm at 100%. Now, I've had quite a few people tell me that it's starting to drop to 99% for them, and I went back and looked. Apple says after 500 cycles, you should be left with about 80%. That means about every 25 or so cycles, this should drop to 99, give or take. But that can vary depending on the overall ambient temperatures, how often you're charging it, maybe what you're charging it with. I typically fast charge on a wireless fast charger at about 15 watts with MagSafe. That's not terribly fast, but still, that's how I'm charging it. And a lot of those factors can determine what happens with your battery health. So both devices are doing pretty well. This one's got barely any cycles on it. But as you can see, as I slide in the different battery statistics from Coconut Battery here. So both are at 100%, but let me know if yours has dropped at all. As far as battery life itself, let's take a look at the last 10 days. On Beta 4, that's what I've been running full time. I have 2 hours and 31 minutes of screen active time, 3 hours and 8 minutes of screen idle time with 50% usage. That's what I'm seeing from a lot of people. And in general, I think this is okay, but I'm hearing good news from 17.1.2 just in the day or so that it's been out. Most people are saying it seems to be pretty good, even though it's processing in the background. You are seeing a few people say it's bad, but at this point, we still need to give it some more time. But most people say it still gets them through the day. This has been on all day. You can see I'm down to 46%. So it is getting me through a day at least at this point. As far as iPadOS 17.2 Beta 4, I've been using it full time on my M2 iPad Pro 12.9. As far as the battery health, you can see that here from Coconut Battery. I've been using it every single day since it released. And if we take a look at the battery, give it just a moment to load, the last 10 days, yesterday, I had 2 hours and 38 minutes of screen on time, 27 minutes of screen off time, and used about 50% of my battery. My battery has not been great, and you'll see YouTube used 44% of that. I use this basically for everything when I'm not editing videos. So It's doing okay, but definitely seems like I have to charge it more than normal on this beta. Let me know your experience though. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 17.1.2, I definitely would do that if you haven't already, but if you're on the betas and you haven't updated to beta 4 yet, I would definitely update, especially if you haven't tried it and you want to try it. It seems pretty stable at this point, but there will always be bugs, and if you do have bugs, make sure to submit those back to feedback so Apple can take a look at those, and I submit any major bugs I have as well. Now, as far as overall comments and what you had to say as far as the experience, let's take a look at some of those. Calvin H. said, I'm running iOS 17.1.2 on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. Battery life seems to have improved slightly. It was very good previously. I haven't encountered any issues thus far. Browsing is even smoother than before. No network issues, no dropped calls, no latency, and all apps open and close very smoothly. Chris Palmer 4983 said, I'm running iOS 17.1.2 on my iPhone 15 Pro. My battery life has been good to great, ranging from moderate to heavy use, varying day to day depending on my daily demands. I easily get an all-day battery with plenty to spare after a busy day. Odd Wiley says, so far iOS 17.1.2 is decent. Battery has been a bit better on my iPhone 15 Pro from day one with 100% health, but it gets me around a day with less than 20% left. The lag I've been having so far seems to have stopped, and the keyboard is a bit more fluent. However, there is a bit of lag when opening the widget section the first time by swiping all the way to the left. There's also a delay when I press the power button to put the phone to sleep. So far, so good. iOS 17.1.2 fixed the issue with Safari not working at all on my 13 Pro Max, and battery life improved a bit. Thumbs up for now. JB8107 says, iOS 17.2 Beta 4 is working great on my iPhone 12 mini. I'm so glad they got the default alerts back so I can make my own notification sound. Tim Chisone says, I'm running iOS 17.2 Beta 4 on my iPhone Pro Max, and Wi-Fi bugs still exist. It randomly drops connectivity while in my house when it never used to, and always requires me to manually connect to Wi-Fi when returning to home. It's very frustrating. Can I comment on this? This is actually a known bug that hopefully is going to be fixed in iOS 17.2. In fact, Apple's actually acknowledged it and said that it will. So that's everything with iOS 17.1.2 and iOS 17.2 Beta 4. If you found any additional features or issues, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and I'll link this wallpaper in the description as I always do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.